Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here on the video today. We're just going to do a video that talks about the CRP program, some of the details of the program, some recent changes, and then we'll go over some important deadlines that are coming up later this summer and early fall. For you landowners that might be interested in the program, definitely take note of those deadlines. Make sure that we don't miss out on any of those and getting you guys signed up for the program. So I'm Tom Zinter. I'm a PF Farm Bill biologist up in the north central part of South Dakota, and I got a couple other biologists with me here today, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Cody Rolfus, the Pheasants Forever Farm Bill biologist over in the Brookings, Flandre, and Sioux Falls area.
I'm Nick Garian, Pheasants Forever Farm Bill biologist here in Chamberlain, South Dakota, and also cover Plankington.
Okay, perfect. So to start out today, I'm just going to go over some broad details of what is CRP. So CRP stands for the Conservation Reserve Program. It's a program that's underneath the Farm Bill. It's part of USDA, and it's administered by the Farm Service Agency. So with CRP, what we're doing is we're taking current crop ground and then using conservation to transition that into perennial vegetation. So there's a bunch of different options under the program. We can do different grass mixes. A lot of those mixes are kind of some high diversity native mixes, things like that have a lot of wildlife benefits and conservation benefits. And then we also have options for planting trees and doing some woody habitat through some different shelter belts and things like that. So Nick, if you want to just touch on a little bit, what are some of the financial advantages for landowners to sign up for the CRP program?
So in return for converting some of this cropland back into conservation trees or grass, you'll receive an annual rental payment for the contract length. So
okay, and then so for those annual rental payments, how do we figure out and set that price for each of those contracts to figure out what a landowner is going to get for a rental payment?
So with the soil types within the CRP boundaries, they'll take the top three soils, and each soil type has a number value assigned to it, and then they average those three out, and that's how you come up with your annual rental payment.
Okay, and so once we have that annual rental payment figured out, how long are landowners kind of locked into that rental rate then?
Okay, so you got some options for 10 or 15-year contracts.
Okay, and so once we get the contract signed up and everything, then we are in the stages of planting the grass or planting the seed. What kind of cost share is available for landowners to help them get that stuff established?
So there is cost share for establishment on these practices, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into those numbers and these new changes that are coming. So
okay, thanks Nick. And so Cody, let's just touch a little bit on, I talked about how for this program we're taking cropland and then putting it into perennial vegetation. What kind of cropland is eligible to enroll into CRP?
So to start with, the land you'd be interested in signing up, you have to have owned the land for at least 1 year when you're signing your contract. And then it has to have cropping history, and in this farm bill and sign up, they look at the years between 2012 and 2017, and it has to have cropping history 4 out of those 6 years.
All right. So yeah, if you're interested at all in some of those CRP options or looking into it for your operation, make sure you get a hold of your local Farm Bill biologist. And some more just kind of background information about the program. So CRP has been around for quite a while now, and we've had many signups throughout the years. And earlier this spring, they put the program kind of on hold. They hit the pause button on everything. We quit accepting new applications, and they kind of reevaluated everything. And now we're back up and running. We're accepting new applications, and we're ready to put some more acres on the land and enroll some new contracts. So now that we're back and accepting new applications, when they reevaluated the program, there's also some pretty big changes that came with it. And so if you were a landowner that showed interest in the CRP program and got an application started earlier this year, those first couple months of 2021, make sure you get a hold of your local Farm Bill biologist or your FSA office and check in on that application. because for those applications that weren't fully contracted at the time before they hit that pause button, those applications have now been deleted, and we'll have to get those resubmitted for you. So make sure you come in and check on that, especially if you showed interest earlier on in 2021 and we're looking into the program at that point. And even if you showed interest before then, it definitely, and maybe CRP wasn't the right fit at that time, definitely worth it to look in some more now with these changes, and we'll kind of go over a few of those. So Nick, if you want to start out, one of the big changes was taking the safe practice, which is CP38, and that had been in the general sign up, and now they moved it over to continuous. And what kind of benefit does that give for South Dakota landowners?
Yeah, so with it being safe acres for wildlife, that practice, if you're not familiar with it, is a 20-acre block of perennial habitat up to 160 acres per tract. And with it being under a general CRP sign up before, it had to be, it was within a competitive bid application. Now with it being into continuous, as long as it's over 20 acres in size, it's basically good to enroll as is. So.
Okay, yeah, that's huge benefit for our landowners here. Now we're able to kind of avoid that competitive ranking process that came with the general sign up. We can basically take any cropland acres that meet the eligibility Cody was talking about. If it's, as long as it's between 20 and 160 acres, we can get that contract going. We can start it right away, and as long as we have acres available, you can get into the program. So Cody, another change that kind of came down here with the restart of CRP was with those annual rental rates that we were talking about earlier. Can you kind of explain what changes happened there?
Yeah, so like Nick mentioned earlier, your annual payments are based on the soils that you have in your current CRP field. And what they did in this pause was they went back and they refigured some of those numbers. And in most cases, those numbers went up. Then other than that, they put on some new incentives. The first incentive being the climate smart incentive, which depending on what practice you enroll into could be a 3, 5, or 10% bump on your annual payment. Another incentive is the clear initiative, and that one is the more wetland practices. So if you are enrolling in a practice that has a wetland associated with it, you will receive a 20% bump on top of that for your annual payment. Then there's also the signing incentive. So just for signing up your land in a CRP, you'll get a 32.5% of that first year's payment right up front.
Awesome. So yeah, there's definitely some pretty substantial changes to some of those soil rental rates, and like Cody had mentioned, we're seeing some pretty drastic increases in some of those rates. So even if you've looked into CRP at any point in the last couple of years, maybe you weren't quite happy with the rental rate that you were looking at, I definitely encourage you to get a hold of your biologist, get a hold of your FSA office, and we can definitely look into those areas again for you, and who knows, maybe you'll see a pretty good increase on the rental rate there. So there's some changes to the rental rates that we just went over, Nick. Where's cost share at? Is there any change to cost share?
Yep, so previous sign up, it was at 50% cost share. It still is 50% cost share, but once your cover is put in the ground, whether it's grass or trees, another 40% practice installation payment is added to that 50%. So you're up to 90% at this point in time. And then within year 5 of your contract, you'll also get an extra 10%. So you're looking at 10 or 100% cost share throughout the life of your contract, whether it's trees or grass or pollinator habitat, to install those practices. So.
Awesome. Yeah. So with those increased cost share rates that we're seeing now, it's definitely a low risk investment on the landowner's part to sign up for the program and get those acres transitioned into perennial habitat and things like that. So there's, like you said, those changes have been pretty substantial. You can see increased rental rates, increased cost share, as well as kind of just easier eligibility to get those pieces of ground into the program. So Nick, what's some of the important deadlines that are coming up here
Sure.
later this summer?
So if you don't have, or if you have an offer in and it doesn't fall under a continuous CRP sign up, whether it's not 20 acres in size or it doesn't have like a wetland or a resource concern tied to it, it'll have to go under a general CRP sign up, and that deadline is July 23rd. And then if you have some land that is either being re-enrolled, new, or a combination of the both, that fall under a continuous sign up, that deadline is going to be August 6th. And those are for contracts that will start October 1 of 2021. And if you're interested later, at a later date, some or continuous CRP is going to remain open. So, but if you're looking at re-enrolling land, if you have a contract that expires, that August 6th date is a very key important date. So.
Okay, so yeah, just to kind of reiterate that, we have the July 23rd is the deadline to submit applications for the general sign up. And for those of you that are interested in CRP, make sure you get a hold of your local biologist or your FSA office or your NRCS office before that date, just to make sure that we kind of figure out what practice that your contract is going to go under, and that way we won't miss that application period for the general sign up. Just in case, I think there will be a lot of you that end up in the continuous sign up, but there will be some that end up in that general sign up for that July 23rd date. And then for existing contracts, we got to know by August 6th for those re-enrolls and getting those going for an October 1st start date. So I think that's about all the details that we got for today for you. And so we'll have a link here at the end of the video as well as in the description that leads you to our Find a Biologist page. What that'll do is you type in where you're located, and then it'll show you the closest biologists that cover your counties for you. And that way you can get in touch with us. We'll walk you through the process, all of the stuff that we went over today. We'll figure out your eligibility, we'll figure out your practices, we'll work with FSA to get you that rental rate, and then we'll walk you all the way through that process from start to finish. And it should be a pretty good process for you. So if you want, hit that like button, subscribe to our page. We'll have plenty of other videos coming out here in the future on different topics regarding habitat programs and habitat that you can install on your land. And so thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you later.